The small bell above Rosie's diner chimed softly as rain began to fall on the dusty streets of New Haven Colony. Maya wiped down the last table of her evening shift, her tired eyes glancing at the clock that showed nearly midnight. The frontier. Settlement on Epsilon 7 was quiet at this hour, with most colonists already tucked away in their prefab homes after another long day of mining operations. She had been working double shifts for 3 weeks now, ever since her younger brother Tom fell ill with the strange fever that had been spreading through the outer colonies. The doctors at the medical bay said they needed expensive medicine from the core worlds, medicine that cost more than Maya could earn in 6 months. But she would not give up on Tom. He was all the family she had left after their parents died. In the mining accident 2 years ago, a sudden rumble shook the ground beneath her feet. Maya looked up from her cleaning, frowning. The weather reports had not mentioned any storms strong enough to cause tremors. Through the rain-streaked windows, she could see nothing but darkness beyond the streetlights. Then the rumbling grew, louder, and a shadow passed over the diner. Maya's heart stopped as she realized what she was seeing. A massive shape descended from the stormy sky, its wings spanning wider than the entire building. Dragon wings. The creature landed in the street with a sound like thunder, sending vibrations through every surface in the diner. Maya dropped her cleaning cloth and backed against the wall, her hands shaking. She had heard stories about dragons. Of course, every human in the galaxy knew about the Draconic Imperium and their terrible emperor who ruled over dozens of star systems with an iron claw. But no dragon had ever come to their small colony. They had nothing here that would interest such powerful beings. The dragon's form began to shift and shrink. Maya watched in terror as the massive creature transformed into something that looked almost human, though still enormous. The being that emerged from the transformation stood at least 12 feet tall, with golden scales covering parts of his skin and eyes that burned like molten amber. He wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself, and power radiated from him like heat from a furnace. But it was what he carried in his arms that made Maya forget her fear for a moment. Wrapped in soft blankets was a small dragon, no bigger than a human baby. The little creature was whimpering softly, and Maya could see that something was wrong. Its wings hung limp and twisted, and its tiny limbs seemed too weak to support its own weight. The Dragon Emperor, for Maya realized that this could only be him, stood in the rain for a long moment. His proud head turned left and right as he seemed to search for something. Then his burning gaze fell upon the diner, and Maya saw something she never expected to see in the eyes of the most feared being in the galaxy. Desperation. He walked toward the diner with slow, careful steps, as if he were trying not to frighten anyone inside. Maya realized she was the only person left in the building. The cook had gone home an hour ago, and the night shift worker had called in sick. She was completely alone with whatever was about to happen. The door opened with another soft chime of the bell, and the Dragon Emperor ducked his massive frame through the entrance. Water dripped from his robes onto the worn linoleum floor. He looked around the small diner with those terrible amber eyes, taking in the simple tables and chairs, the old coffee machine, and the handwritten menu board. His gaze finally settled on Maya, who was still pressed against the wall near the kitchen. For several heartbeats, neither of them moved. The only sound was the gentle rain outside and the soft whimpering of the baby dragon in his arms. "The medical facility," the Emperor said finally. His voice was deep and resonant, like distant thunder. "Where is it?" Maya found her voice somehow, though it came out as barely a whisper. "It's closed. The equipment broke down last week. They're waiting for replacement parts from the core worlds." The Emperor's expression darkened, and Maya was sure she was about to die. But then the baby dragon in his arms let out a weak cry, and all the anger seemed to drain from the massive being's face. He looked down at the small creature with such tenderness that Maya felt her heart skip. "Please," the Emperor said, and Maya realized he was speaking to her. The most powerful being in the known galaxy was asking her for help. "Is there nowhere else? No healer who might—" "I'm sorry," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "The medical bay is the only facility we have. But they said the parts should arrive in a few days." The Emperor closed his eyes and seemed to sag, under some invisible weight. The baby dragon whimpered again, and Maya could see that the little creature was in pain. Without thinking, she took a step forward. "You could wait here," she heard herself saying. "I mean, if you want to, I can make coffee. And there are booths where you could sit. It's warm and dry." The Emperor opened his eyes and stared at her with surprise. "You would allow me to remain here?" Maya looked at the suffering baby in his arms and felt something stir in her chest. It was the same feeling she got when she looked at Tom lying sick in his bed. "You're worried about your baby," she said simply. "Any parent would be." For the first time since he had entered the diner, the Dragon Emperor seemed to truly see her. His burning gaze softened slightly, and Maya realized that beneath all the power and terror, he was just a father trying to help his child. "I am called Rithmal," he said quietly. "Maya," she replied, taking another small step forward. "And what's your baby's name?" "Kira," the Emperor said, looking down at the small dragon with infinite sadness. "Her name is Kira." Dawn light filtered through the windows of Rosie's diner as Maya poured another cup of coffee for the Dragon Emperor. Rithmal had spent the entire night in the corner booth, his massive frame somehow fitting into the small space as he held his daughter close. He had not slept, and neither had Maya. She had stayed awake watching them, partly from fear, but mostly from concern. Little Kira had been restless all night, whimpering and crying softly. Every sound the baby dragon made seemed to pierce straight through her father's heart. Maya had seen that look before, in her own reflection, when Tom was at his sickest. It was the helpless desperation of someone watching a loved one suffer. "The coffee is fresh," Maya said quietly, setting the cup on the table. She had learned to move slowly around the Emperor, not from fear, but from politeness. He was clearly trying hard not to frighten her, keeping his voice low and his movements careful. "Thank you," Rithmal rumbled. He had not touched any of the food Maya had offered, but he had drunk several cups of coffee throughout the night. "You did not have to remain here with us." Maya shrugged and sat down across from him, something that would have been unthinkable 12 hours ago. "I couldn't sleep anyway. Tom has been having bad nights lately, too." "Tom?" "My brother. He's sick." Maya gestured toward the window that faced the residential area of the colony. "The fever broke yesterday, but he's still weak. I worry about leaving him alone for too long." Rithmal studied her face with those burning amber eyes. "Yet you stayed to tend to strangers." "You're not strangers anymore," Maya said simply. "Besides, Kira reminds me of Tom when he was little. He used to get sick a lot when we were kids." As if responding to her name, the baby dragon stirred in her father's arms and let out another soft cry. This time, though, the cry sounded different, more urgent, more distressed. Rithmal immediately began rocking her gently, making soft shushing sounds that seemed strange coming from such a fearsome being. But Kira would not be comforted. Her cries grew louder, and Maya could see panic beginning to build in the Emperor's eyes. His hands, each one larger than Maya's entire torso, shook slightly as he tried everything he could think of to soothe his daughter. "May I?" Maya asked suddenly, surprising herself with her boldness. Rithmal froze. "What? May I try to help her? Sometimes babies just need a different touch." The Emperor stared at her as if she had suggested something impossible. "You wish to hold her?" Maya nodded, though her heart was racing. "If you'll let me." For a long moment, Rithmal said nothing. Maya could see the war being fought behind his eyes. Every instinct he had as a father and as an emperor must be screaming at him not to trust his precious child to a human stranger. But Kira's cries were growing more desperate, and nothing he was doing seemed to help. Finally, with movements so careful they seemed to take forever, Rithmal began to lift his daughter toward Maya. The baby dragon was surprisingly light, no, heavier than a human infant, and her scales were warm and smooth under Maya's hands. The moment Kira settled into Maya's arms, something magical happened. The baby dragon's cries immediately quieted to soft whimpers and then stopped entirely. She looked up at Maya with large, curious eyes that were the same amber color as her father's and made a small, cooing sound. Maya felt her heart melt. "Hello there, little one," she whispered, gently adjusting the blankets around Kira's small form. "Are you feeling better now?" Rithmal was staring at them both with an expression of complete amazement. "She has not stopped crying for more than a few minutes at a time in days," he said quietly. "How did you—" "Sometimes they just need to be held differently," Maya said, though she was just as surprised as he was. She began to rock Kira gently, the way she used to rock Tom when he was small. "You've been holding her like she might break. But babies are tougher than they look, even sick ones." The baby dragon seemed to agree, snuggling deeper into Maya's arms with a contented sigh. Her twisted wings relaxed against her body, and for the first time since Maya had met them, Kira looked peaceful. "I do not understand," Rithmal said, leaning forward in his booth. "You are not even of her species. How can she be comfortable with you when she cries with me?" Maya thought about that for a moment, still gently rocking the baby. "Maybe because I don't expect anything from her. You're her father and an emperor. You probably want her to be strong and perfect. But I just see a baby who needs comfort." The words hung in the air between them, and Maya wondered if she had gone too far. But Rithmal did not look angry. Instead, he looked thoughtful. "In my empire," he said slowly, "weakness is not tolerated. A dragon who cannot fly, who cannot demonstrate proper strength, such a dragon has no place in our society." "That's terrible," Maya said without thinking, then immediately regretted her boldness. But again, Rithmal did not seem offended. "It is the way we have always been," he said. "The strong rule, and the weak serve or are cast aside. It is what has made our empire mighty." Maya looked down at little Kira, who was now sleeping peacefully in her arms. "But she's just a baby. She might get stronger as she grows." "The healers say she will not. Her wings will never support flight, and her limbs will always be weak. By draconic law, I should leave her on a distant world to live or die as fate decides." The casual way he said it made Maya's blood run cold. "You would abandon your own child?" "It would be the expected thing," Rithmal said, but Maya could hear the pain in his voice. "The merciful thing," many would say, "to spare her a life of shame and suffering. Or you could love her as she is," Maya said fiercely, holding Kira a little tighter. "You could show her that she has value beyond flying or fighting." Rithmal was quiet for a long time, watching his daughter sleep in the arms of a human waitress. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than Maya had ever heard it. "Your species puzzles me, Maya of the humans. You work yourself to exhaustion for a sick brother. You offer comfort to strangers who could destroy you without effort. You see value where others see only weakness. Why?" Maya thought about Tom lying sick at home. She thought about all the other colonists who had helped her family after their parents died, bringing food and medicine and kind words when they had little to spare themselves. She thought about the way the human doctors had worked tirelessly to help Kira the night before, even knowing who her father was. "Because that's what makes us strong," she said finally. "Not our weapons or our power, our care for each other. even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Kira stirred slightly in her sleep, making a small happy sound. Maya looked down at the peaceful baby dragon and made a decision that would change everything. I think I know how to help her feel better while you wait for the medical bay to reopen, if you trust me. 3 days had passed since the Dragon Emperor first entered Rosie's diner, and the small establishment had become something neither Maya nor Rithmal could have imagined. Word had spread quickly through New Haven Colony that their most feared enemy was living peacefully among them, and curiosity had begun to overcome terror. Maya had fashioned a carrier sling from spare fabric and cushioning, allowing Kira to rest comfortably against her chest while she worked. The baby dragon seemed to thrive with the constant gentle movement and closeness to a caregiver. Her crying had nearly stopped, replaced by soft coos and even what Maya swore were attempts at baby laughter. She likes the motion, Maya explained to Rithmal as she refilled coffee cups for the brave colonists who had begun venturing into the diner. Human babies love being carried this way too. It reminds them of being safe in their mother's womb. Rithmal watched from his corner booth, his massive frame somehow less intimidating when he was observing his daughter with such gentle attention. Dragon hatchlings are typically left to develop independence immediately after birth. We believed constant holding would make them weak. Maybe independence isn't the most important thing for babies, Maya said, adjusting the sling so Kira could see her father. The baby dragon immediately perked up and made happy chirping sounds at Rithmal, who responded with a rumbling purr that vibrated through the entire diner. Old Pete, one of the colony's senior miners, had been coming in for coffee every morning since the second day. He sat 3 tables away from the Emperor, close enough to observe but far enough to run if needed. This morning he cleared his throat nervously. "Pardon me, Your Majesty," Pete began, his weathered hands shaking slightly around his coffee cup. "I was wondering about the little one. Is she doing better?" Rithmal turned his burning gaze toward the old miner, and Pete nearly fell off his chair. But the Emperor's voice was gentle when he replied, "She is improving, thanks to Maya's care. Thank you for asking." Pete nodded quickly and returned to his coffee, but Maya noticed he was smiling slightly. It was the first direct conversation between a colonist and the Dragon Emperor, and nobody had died. Word would spread about that too. Later that afternoon, as Maya was teaching Rithmal how to properly secure the baby sling, a group of children pressed their faces against the diner's windows. They had been gathering outside for 2 days now, drawn by curiosity and the human need to see the impossible with their own eyes. "They want to meet Kira," Maya said, noticing the Emperor's concerned expression. "Children don't have the same fears adults do." "Dragon hatchlings would be taught to fear other species," Rithmal said thoughtfully. "We are raised to see differences as threats. These kids have never seen a baby dragon before. To them, she's just interesting and new." Maya looked down at Kira, who was awake and alert in the sling. "What do you think, little one? Do you want to meet some human children?" As if she understood, Kira made an excited chirping sound and tried to reach toward the windows with her small, weak arms. Rithmal was quiet for a long moment. Then, to Maya's amazement, he stood and walked toward the door. The children outside scattered briefly, but their curiosity quickly overcame their fear as they saw he was moving slowly and carefully. The Emperor knelt down outside the diner, bringing himself closer to the children's eye level, though he was still enormous compared to them. "Would you like to meet my daughter?" he asked gently. The bravest of the children, a girl of maybe 8 years old, stepped forward. "Is she really a dragon baby?" "She is," Rithmal said solemnly. "Her name is Kira." "Why can't she fly?" asked a boy with freckles and missing front teeth. Maya held her breath, waiting to see how the Emperor would handle such a direct question about his daughter's disability. But Rithmal simply said, Her wings do not work the way most dragon wings do. She will need to find other ways to be strong." "That's okay," the freckled boy said matter-of-factly. "My sister can't walk, but she's really good at drawing. Maybe Kira will be good at something else." The simple acceptance in the child's voice seemed to hit Rithmal like a physical blow. Maya saw his amber eyes widen with something that might have been wonder. "Can we touch her?" the brave girl asked. "She looks soft." Maya carefully lifted Kira from the sling, supporting her weak limbs. The baby dragon cooed happily as gentle young hands petted her scales and marveled at how warm she was. She seemed to enjoy the attention, making pleased chirping sounds that delighted the children. "She's beautiful," whispered a quiet boy who had been hanging back. "She looks like sunshine." Rithmal had gone completely still, watching his disabled daughter being celebrated and admired by human children who saw only wonder where his own people would see shame. That evening, after the children had reluctantly gone home for dinner, Maya and Rithmal sat together in the diner while Kira slept peacefully in the sling. "Your species continues to puzzle me," the Emperor said quietly. Those children showed no fear of Kira's differences. In my empire, she would be hidden away to spare the family embarrassment. "Humans aren't perfect," Maya said, gently stroking Kira's tiny head. "We have our own prejudices and fears, but we've learned that diversity makes us stronger. Our greatest leaders, artists, and inventors often see the world differently than everyone else." "Tell me," Rithmal said, leaning forward with intense interest. Maya thought for a moment. There was a scientist named Dr. Hayes who discovered the cure for red fever. She was born deaf and couldn't hear the warnings that kept other researchers from exploring dangerous sound frequencies. Her different perspective led to the breakthrough that saved millions of lives. And she was celebrated for this? Absolutely. We built statues of her on dozen worlds. Maya looked down at Kira, who was smiling in her sleep. Being different isn't a weakness to overcome. It's a strength to discover. Rithmal was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "In my empire, I am expected to choose a new heir if Kira cannot fulfill her duties as future empress. My nobles believe I should father another child, one without her challenges." Maya felt a surge of protective anger. "And what do you believe?" The Dragon Emperor looked at his sleeping daughter with eyes full of love and growing understanding. "I begin to think my nobles understand very little about true strength." Outside, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Soon, the medical bay would reopen, and difficult decisions would have to be made. But for now, in a small diner on a frontier world, a father was learning that love could be stronger than tradition, and that sometimes the greatest wisdom came from the most unexpected teachers. Maya smiled as she watched Rithmal gently adjust Kira's blankets, using the tender techniques she had taught him. Change was happening in the heart of the galaxy's most powerful ruler, one small act of kindness at a time. The morning of the 5th day brought news that would change everything. Dr. Lisa, the colony's chief medical officer, had returned from the core worlds with new equipment and a specialist in xenobiology. The medical bay was finally ready to examine little Kira properly. Maya felt her heart sink as she helped Rithmal prepare for the visit. Over the past few days, she had grown deeply attached to the baby dragon, and she could see that Kira had bonded with her as well. The little one would reach for Maya whenever she entered the room and seemed happiest when curled up in the sling against Maya's chest. "Whatever the doctors say," Maya told Rithmal as they walked toward the medical facility, "remember that they can only tell you about her body. They can't measure her spirit or her potential." The Dragon Emperor nodded grimly. He had been quiet all morning, the weight of impending decisions clear on his massive features. "My Imperial Guard sent word yesterday. They will arrive this afternoon to escort me home. The nobles grow restless with my absence." Maya's steps slowed. She had known this moment would come, but she was not ready for it. "What will you tell them about Kira?" "I do not know," Rithmal admitted. "By law, I should have already made the decision to abandon her. My prolonged absence with a disabled heir is seen as weakness that could threaten the stability of the empire." The medical bay was a gleaming facility that looked out of place on the frontier colony. Dr. Lisa, a kind woman in her 50s, greeted them with professional warmth that did not quite hide her nervousness at examining the Dragon Emperor's daughter. The examination was thorough and gentle. Dr. Lisa used scanners and sensors that hummed softly as they mapped Kira's small body. The baby dragon was curious about the equipment, reaching out to touch the glowing displays with tiny claws. Maya stood close by, ready to comfort Kira if she became frightened, while Rithmal watched every procedure with intense attention. "The bone structure in her wings is severely underdeveloped," Dr. Lisa explained, showing them holographic images of Kira's skeleton. "She will never achieve flight, and her leg muscles lack the strength for typical draconic mobility. However," the word hung in the air like a promise. "However," Rithmal prompted, leaning forward, "her brain scans are extraordinary. I've never seen neural pathway development like this in any species. The areas associated with telepathic communication and advanced cognition are incredibly active." Dr. Lisa smiled as she looked at the sleeping baby. "She may not be able to fly, but her mind is going to be remarkable." "Telepathic abilities are rare even among dragons," Rithmal said thoughtfully. "They are considered gifts of the highest order." "There's more," Dr. Lisa continued, pulling up another set of scans. "Her empathic responses are off the charts. She instinctively reads emotional states and responds to them. That's why she's been so much calmer with Maya. She can sense Maya's genuine care and love." Maya looked down at Kira, who had woken up during the examination and was now staring up at her with those intelligent amber eyes. "You little mind-reader," she whispered affectionately. "No wonder you knew exactly how to wrap us all around your tiny claws." "In human society," Dr. Lisa said carefully, "we would consider these abilities to be incredible assets. Leaders who can truly understand the emotions and needs of their people are rare and precious." Rithmal was quiet for a long time, absorbing this information. Finally, he asked, "What is your medical opinion of her quality of life? With proper support and accommodation for her physical limitations, I see no reason why she cannot live a full and happy life. Her cognitive abilities suggest she will be highly intelligent and emotionally sophisticated. In many ways, she may be far more capable than physically typical individuals." As they left the medical bay, Maya could see Rithmal struggling with internal conflict. The dragon noble's expectations warred with everything he had learned about his daughter's potential and everything he had observed about human values. That afternoon, as promised, 3 massive dragons descended from the sky and landed near the colony with earth-shaking impacts. The Imperial Guard had arrived, and Maya could see immediately that these dragons were different from Rithmal. Where the Emperor had learned gentleness and restraint, these newcomers radiated arrogance and barely contained aggression. The lead dragon, who introduced himself as General Thorgrim, transformed into humanoid form and strode into the diner where Rithmal waited. His scales were dark blue-black and his eyes burned with cold fire. "My Emperor," Thorgrim said, though his tone held little respect. "The Noble Council demands your immediate return. This absence has caused considerable unrest. There are whispers that you have gone soft, that you are unfit to rule if you cannot make hard decisions about your own defective offspring." Maya, who had been wiping down tables nearby, felt her temper flare. She opened her mouth to speak, but Rithmal held up one massive hand. "And what decisions would the Noble Council have me make, General?" the Emperor asked quietly. The law is clear. The heir must be capable of ruling through strength. If she cannot fly, cannot fight, cannot inspire fear and respect, then she is not fit to inherit the throne. You must choose a new heir and abandon this one to whatever fate awaits her." "I see." Rithmal's voice was dangerously calm. "And if I refuse?" Thorgrim's eyes gleamed with something that might have been anticipation. "Then the council may be forced to question whether you yourself are fit to rule. These humans have clearly corrupted your judgment." Maya could not stay quiet any longer. "Corrupted?" she said, stepping forward despite her fear. "We showed him how to love his daughter. We showed him that strength comes in many forms. If that's corruption, then I'm proud to be corrupt." The general turned his cold gaze on her, and Maya felt as though she were being examined by a predator. "Ah, the human pet. I have heard about you. You think your primitive emotions and weak sentiments are wisdom. You know nothing about ruling an empire that spans 100 worlds." "Maybe not," Maya said, her voice shaking but determined. "But I know that any empire built on abandoning disabled children is not worth ruling." For a moment, Maya thought the general might strike her down, where she stood. But then Rithmal rose to his full height, and power radiated from him like heat from a star. "General Thorgrim," the Emperor said in a voice that could have shattered mountains, "you will speak respectfully to Maya, who has shown more wisdom in 5 days than the noble council has shown in 5 centuries." The 2 dragons stared at each other, and Maya realized she was witnessing a moment that would determine the fate of entire civilizations. Finally, Thorgrim bowed his head slightly. "What are your orders, my emperor?" Rithmal looked down at Kira, who was sleeping peacefully in Maya's arms, unaware that her entire future hung in the balance. Then he looked at Maya, at the human woman, who had shown him a different way to see strength and love and leadership. "Prepare the ship for departure," he said finally. "We return to the capital immediately, and send word ahead to the noble council that I am calling an emergency session. It is time for the Draconic Imperium to learn some new lessons about what it truly means to be strong." 20 years had passed since a desperate dragon emperor first entered a small diner on Epsilon 7, carrying his disabled daughter in his arms. Today, that same diner had been transformed into something extraordinary, the site of the first interspecies peace summit between the Draconic Imperium and the Human Alliance. Maya, now in her 40s, with silver threading through her brown hair, stood behind the same counter where she had once served coffee to terrified colonists. But today, she wore the formal robes of Director of Draconic Human Cultural Exchange, a position created specifically for her by Rithmal 20 years earlier. The diner itself had been preserved exactly as it was, down to the worn booth where the Emperor had spent that first night learning to see his daughter through human eyes. But surrounding it now was a beautiful complex of meeting halls and gardens, a symbol of what could grow from the smallest seeds of understanding. "Maya," came a familiar voice behind her, and she turned to see Kira approaching with the fluid, grace that had replaced her childhood weakness. The young dragoness walked with a crystal-headed staff that both supported her and amplified her remarkable telepathic abilities. Her wings, though still unable to carry her in flight, had grown into magnificent decorative displays that she wore like ceremonial robes. "Your Highness," Maya said formally, then broke into a warm smile. "Though I still think of you as the little one who used to fall asleep in my carrier sling." Kira laughed, a sound like silver bells. "I remember those slings. Father still has them, you know. He says they represent the first lesson he learned about human wisdom." She paused, her amber eyes growing serious. "Are you nervous about today?" Maya looked around the crowded diner, where human diplomats sat next to dragon nobles, all of them preparing for the ceremony that would crown Kira as the first dragon empress in history to rule through understanding rather than fear. "A little," Maya admitted. Your coronation is going to change everything for both our species. No pressure, right? I have been preparing for this my entire life, Kira said with quiet confidence. Father made sure I learned not just draconic law and tradition, but human philosophy, emotion management, and conflict resolution. He said I needed to understand both worlds if I was going to bring them together. Through the window, Maya could see Rithmal in the garden, speaking with the human ambassador. The Dragon Emperor had changed dramatically over the past 2 decades. Where once he had ruled through intimidation and raw power, he now led through example and wisdom. His reforms had transformed the Draconic Imperium from a feared tyranny into a respected member of the galactic community. He's proud of you, Maya said, watching the way Rithmal's face lit up whenever he caught sight of his daughter. He told me yesterday that you've already exceeded every dream he had for you. Even the ones where I could fly? Kira asked with gentle humor. Especially those ones, Maya replied. He says you've learned to soar in ways that have nothing to do with wings. The ceremony began at sunset, with representatives from dozens of worlds gathering in the garden around the preserved diner. Kira took her place on a simple platform, refusing the elaborate throne that tradition demanded. Instead, she stood with her crystal staff and her magnificent wings spread wide, addressing the crowd in both dragon speech and human language. My friends, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the natural amplification of her telepathic abilities. 20 years ago, my father brought me to this place as a dying hatchling. He was prepared to abandon me because I could not meet the physical standards our society demanded. But he learned something here that changed not just our lives, but the destiny of our entire empire. Maya felt tears beginning to form in her eyes as Kira continued. He learned that true strength is not found in the power to destroy, but in the courage to protect. Not in the ability to instill fear, but in the wisdom to inspire hope. Not in perfection of body, but in greatness of spirit. The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word. As your empress, I make this promise. Our empire will no longer measure worth by physical ability or force of arms. We will value each citizen for their unique gifts, their capacity for growth, and their contribution to our shared future. We will lead not through dominance, but through service. She paused, her gaze finding Maya in the crowd. And we will remember always that the greatest teachers often come in the most unexpected forms. A human waitress who showed a dragon emperor that love was stronger than law. Children who saw beauty where others saw only brokenness. A small colony that chose compassion over fear. As Kira spoke these words, something extraordinary happened. Her telepathic abilities, grown stronger over the years, began to project her emotions and memories to everyone present. The assembled crowds suddenly felt what she had felt as a frightened, disabled hatchling finding comfort in Maya's arms. They experienced Rithmal's anguish and transformation. They shared the joy of human children celebrating differences instead of hiding them. Dragons who had spent centuries believing in the supremacy of physical power suddenly understood the strength that came from vulnerability and connection. Humans who had feared draconic aggression felt the deep capacity for love and growth that lay beneath the fearsome exterior. Today marks not just my coronation, Kira continued, but the birth of a new age. An age where our two species will work together, each contributing our greatest strengths while supporting each other's weaknesses. Where dragon fire will light, the way to new discoveries and human compassion will guide us toward wisdom. The formal coronation ritual that followed was unlike any in draconic history. Instead of demonstrations of power and might, Kira showcased her telepathic abilities by mediating a complex trade dispute between 3 different worlds, finding solutions that satisfied all parties through patient listening and emotional understanding. Representatives from species that had been enemies for generations found themselves sitting together, drawn by Kira's empathic influence to see past their differences to their common hopes and fears. War-weary soldiers began discussing peace treaties. Trade rivals started planning cooperative ventures. As the ceremony concluded and the crowds began to disperse, Maya found herself alone with Rithmal in the quiet diner. The Dragon Emperor, now showing his age with silver threading through his golden scales, sat in his old booth and looked around the simple space that had changed everything. "Do you ever regret it?" Maya asked, settling into the seat across from him just as she had so many years ago. "Giving up the old ways? Some of your nobles still believe strength should be measured by the ability to conquer." Rithmal chuckled, a sound that would have once shaken the building, but now seemed merely warm and rich. "Those nobles have not seen what I have seen. They have not watched their daughter broker peace between species that have fought for millennia. They have not witnessed the prosperity that comes when citizens serve willingly rather than from fear." He gestured toward the window, where young dragons and humans could be seen playing together in the gardens, their laughter filling the evening air. "Look at them, Maya. Dragon children learning human games. Human children riding on dragon backs. Neither species diminished by the friendship, both enriched beyond measure." "Tom would have loved to see this," Maya said softly. Her brother had passed away 5 years earlier, but not before seeing his sister become one of the most influential figures in galactic politics. "He did see it," Rithmal replied gently. "Every reform we implemented, every life we improved, every barrier we broke down, it all began with his sister's refusal to let a disabled child suffer alone. His influence echoes in every choice we make." As if summoned by their conversation, Kira appeared in the doorway, her formal robes now replaced with a simple dress that allowed her to move freely despite her physical limitations. "The last of the delegations have departed," she reported, settling into the booth beside her father. "The trade agreements will be finalized next month, and the cultural exchange programs will begin accepting applications tomorrow." "And how do you feel, Your Imperial Majesty?" Maya asked with mock formality. Kira grinned, suddenly looking like the mischievous hatchling Maya remembered. "Terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. Also incredibly grateful." "For what?" "For a human waitress who saw a disabled baby dragon and chose love over fear. For a father who was brave enough to question everything he had been taught. For a small diner where the impossible became inevitable." Outside, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky, just as they had 20 years ago when Maya first chose to trust a desperate dragon emperor with her kindness. But now those stars looked down on a galaxy where dragons and humans worked together, where differences were celebrated rather than hidden, and where strength was measured not by the power to destroy, but by the courage to build. Maya reached across the table and took Kira's hand in hers, marveling at how the tiny claws she had once helped learn to grasp had grown into hands capable of reshaping the universe through wisdom and compassion. "You know," Maya said, looking around the preserved diner one more time, "I always thought this was just a place where people came for coffee and conversation. I never imagined it would become the birthplace of a new era." Rithmal and Kira exchanged knowing looks, and the Emperor's eyes sparkled with ancient humor. "Perhaps, my dear friend, that is exactly why it was the perfect place for everything to begin. The greatest revolutions often start not in palaces or battlefields, but in the quiet moments when one person chooses to see another's pain and respond with love." As the three of them sat together in the small diner where it all began, surrounded by the echoes of laughter and hope that now filled a transformed galaxy, Maya finally understood that sometimes the most important job in the universe was simply being kind to someone who needed it. Everything else was just details.